Welcome to Global Trends. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. Welcome back. Remember when tariffs were supposed to bring back American manufacturing? Turns out things got a lot messier than anyone expected. Today we're counting down 5 major corporations that left the US market after tariffs hit. Some of these names will surprise you. Let's dive in. First up, Toyota. The name alone conjures images of reliability, innovation, and a global presence that's hard to match. For decades, Toyota has been a fixture on American roads, with millions of drivers trusting their vehicles for daily commutes, family road trips, and everything in between. You see their cars everywhere, from bustling city streets to quiet suburban neighborhoods. Toyota's reach in the US is massive, with dealerships in nearly every state and a loyal customer base that spans generations. But behind the scenes, things aren't as simple as they seem. Tariffs on imported auto parts and metals hit them hard, even though they build cars in the US. The reality is, even American-made Toyotas rely on a complex web of global supply chains. Modern car manufacturing is global: engines from Japan, electronics from Taiwan, transmissions from all over the world, all assembled in Kentucky or Texas. Each Toyota vehicle is a product of international collaboration, with parts crossing borders multiple times before reaching the assembly line. When tariffs raised costs, Toyota faced a tough choice: absorb the losses and risk shrinking profits, raise prices and risk losing customers, or look elsewhere for more cost-effective solutions. The stakes were high, and every option came with its own set of challenges. Instead of expanding in the US, Toyota made a strategic decision to shift investments to Mexico and Canada, where tariffs weren't an issue. These countries offered a friendlier trade environment, lower production costs, and easier access to global supply chains. New factories broke ground south and north of the border, creating thousands of jobs outside the US and strengthening Toyota's presence in North America, just not in the way American policymakers had hoped. The policy meant to boost American jobs actually pushed Toyota to send future opportunities abroad. US workers watched as investments and new projects shifted away, leaving some plants underutilized and communities worried about their economic future. It's a classic case of unintended consequences. Tariffs meant as a shield became a barrier. Instead of protecting American industry, the policy complicated supply chains and made it harder for companies like Toyota to justify building in the US. For Toyota, the math was simple: building cars in the US just didn't add up anymore. The increased costs from tariffs outweighed the benefits, forcing the company to rethink its entire North American strategy. Economists and industry experts quickly took notice, warning that Toyota's move could be just the beginning. Other automakers might follow suit, leading to a ripple effect across the entire sector. Their pivot sent shockwaves through the auto industry, showing how quickly trade policy can backfire. In the end, Toyota's unexpected U-turn became a cautionary tale about the complexities of global manufacturing and the far-reaching impact of economic decisions. Next, let's turn our attention to Siemens, the German industrial giant whose influence stretches across continents and industries. For over a century, Siemens has been a symbol of innovation and engineering excellence, with its name attached to everything from cutting-edge medical scanners that save lives to the sprawling power grids that keep entire cities running. Their technology is woven into the fabric of modern life, powering hospitals, factories, and homes. But behind the scenes, Siemens' vast US operations depended on a complex, finely tuned global supply chain, one that brought in steel, aluminum, and high-tech electronics from all over the world. When tariffs hit those crucial materials, the impact was immediate and severe. Suddenly, the cost of importing essential parts skyrocketed and the once smooth flow of goods became tangled in red tape and uncertainty. Siemens' American factories, which had thrived on efficiency and global collaboration, now faced delays, shortages, and ballooning expenses. Executives scrambled to make sense of the new reality. Costs soared, uncertainty grew, and long-term planning became nearly impossible. Every decision was clouded by the question: would the next shipment arrive on time, or at all? For workers on the factory floor, anxiety replaced confidence as rumors of cutbacks and layoffs began to circulate. Instead of absorbing massive losses or passing higher prices onto customers, Siemens made a drastic choice. They shifted key manufacturing operations out of the US, relocating production to Europe and Asia, where supply chains were less disrupted and costs were more predictable. The result? High-skilled American jobs vanished almost overnight. Factories that once buzzed with activity fell silent. and communities that depended on Siemens for good-paying jobs faced an uncertain future. Ironically, the tariffs meant to protect U.S. industry ended up driving it away. Siemens' story is a powerful reminder that tariffs on parts, not just finished goods, can unravel entire industries. When the cost of building something in America rises too high, even the most committed companies may be forced to look elsewhere. Sometimes policies designed to protect jobs end up exporting them instead, leaving behind empty factories and broken promises. Now Samsung, they opened a celebrated appliance factory in South Carolina promising hundreds of jobs. But tariffs on washing machines and imported components made U.S. production far more expensive than planned. The factory opened, but expansion plans stalled. Samsung was squeezed by tariffs on both finished goods and parts. Instead of growing in the U.S., Samsung started looking to countries like Vietnam and Mexico for future investment. The very policies meant to bring manufacturing back made it too risky to stay. For Samsung, the American dream became a cautionary tale about unpredictable trade policy. When stability disappears, so does investment. For decades, BMW's sprawling Spartanburg, South Carolina plant stood as a symbol of American manufacturing success. It wasn't just a factory, it was the beating heart of BMW's global SUV production, churning out hundreds of thousands of vehicles each year. In fact, this single plant became America's top auto exporter by value, shipping luxury SUVs to more than 140 countries. The local economy thrived, with thousands of workers and suppliers depending on the steady hum of the assembly lines. Spartanburg was a shining example of how international investment could create jobs and prosperity in the U.S. But then, the landscape changed. When tariffs were imposed on imported steel and aluminum, BMW's costs began to climb. Every SUV rolling off the line became more expensive to build, yet the real shock came when China, BMW's largest export market, hit back with retaliatory tariffs on US-made cars. Suddenly, the very vehicles that made Spartanburg famous were priced out of reach for Chinese buyers. The trade war wasn't just a headline, it was a direct hit to the plant's bottom line. Overnight, exporting from the US to China went from a lucrative business to a losing proposition. Shipments slowed, and the once busy docks saw fewer BMWs heading overseas. The ripple effects were immediate. Fewer orders meant less work for suppliers, shippers, and the entire local economy. What had been a model of global trade was now caught in the crossfire of international politics. Faced with mounting losses, BMW made a tough decision. The company shifted production of some key models to its factories in China, where tariffs wouldn't apply. This move meant not only moving jobs and investment overseas, but also a loss of expertise and opportunity for American workers. The global supply chain was being reconfigured in real time, with Spartanburg left behind. Ironically, the very policy designed to protect American manufacturing ended up shrinking it. Instead of boosting U.S. jobs, the tariffs pushed companies like BMW to look elsewhere, leaving American workers and communities to bear the brunt of the fallout. BMW's experience is a textbook example of how trade wars can backfire. In today's interconnected world, every action has a global reaction. When one country raises barriers, others respond, and the consequences can be felt far beyond the negotiating table. For the workers of Spartanburg, the lesson was harsh and personal. Jobs that once seemed secure vanished almost overnight. Families and communities that had relied on the plant for decades were suddenly left facing an uncertain future, all because of decisions made thousands of miles away. In a globalized world, trade barriers cut both ways. The story of BMW and Spartanburg is a powerful reminder. When nations clash over trade, it's often the workers on the ground who pay the highest price. Panasonic, Tesla's battery partner at the Nevada Gigafactory, was all in on American innovation. But tariffs on Chinese battery components drove up costs, threatening the economics of U.S. battery production. Tensions rose with Tesla, and Panasonic froze plans to expand in Nevada. Instead, they looked to Asia for future growth, hedging against U.S. trade risks. The result? Fewer high-tech jobs and less investment in America's green future. Tariffs meant to protect tech ended up stifling it. Sometimes policy meant to power up America ends up powering it down. So there you have it. Toyota, Siemens, Samsung, BMW, and Panasonic. 5 stories, 1 lesson: tariffs can have big, unexpected consequences. Instead of building a fortress, the U.S. pushed some of its biggest investors to look elsewhere. In today's world, trade policy ripples through every factory and boardroom. What do you think? Are tariffs worth it? Or do they do more harm than good? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more.